For decades, we've watched major powers get involved all over the Middle East. But there's one country that has always stood its ground: Iran. It's this geopolitical puzzle that stumped empires for literally centuries. So, what makes this place such an impossible fortress? Well, let's figure it out.
Just think about this for a second. For 600 years, its borders haven't moved an inch. Now, that's not just some random fact. That is a testament to some serious resilience. I mean, think about the empires that have come and gone, that have tried to crack this nut. The Romans, the Arabs, the Turks, the Russians, even the British Empire at its peak. Every single one of them tried, and every single one failed to hold this land for good. This isn't something new. This is a story that's been 600 years in the making.
So, what is the secret here? What makes Iran so incredibly tough to conquer? Well, the answer really boils down to 4 key clues. And once you put them all together, they solve the puzzle of this impossible fortress.
All right, let's jump into our first and, honestly, most basic clue: the land itself. You see, Iran's greatest defense wasn't built by some king or some army, nope. It was a gift from nature.
Yeah, the best way to think about Iran is to literally picture a massive fortress. But instead of man-made stone walls and moats, its defenses are these towering mountain ranges, these huge, empty deserts, and nearly impassable marshlands. These natural barriers basically surround the entire country on almost every single side.
So let's break this down. Look to the south and west, you've got the Zagros Mountains, a massive wall. Go up north, and the Alborz Mountains create this huge barrier against the Caspian Sea. Then you've got a natural moat, right? Marshlands right there at the Iraqi border. And here's the kicker. Even if an invading army somehow gets past all of that, they're immediately faced with 2 of the most brutal, inhospitable deserts on the entire planet, smack dab in the middle of the country. I mean, for any army trying to invade, this is just a complete nightmare. This geography creates a logistical trap. Let's say you even manage to breach the outer walls. Your forces are now funneled through these tiny mountain passes, or trying to survive crossing scorching deserts. Your supply lines, they're stretched to the absolute breaking point. It makes any kind of long-term control of the country just almost impossible.
Okay, so let's move on to our second clue. We're shifting gears a bit here, from natural defense to economic power. Because beyond its mountains, Iran holds one of the keys to the entire global economy.
And this clue is all about something called a geopolitical choke point. It's basically a narrow passage, like a strait, that is so critical to global trade that whoever controls it has immense power. And wouldn't you know it, Iran sits right on top of one of the most important choke points in the world. And that choke point, that trump card, is the Strait of Hormuz. Iran controls the entire northern coastline of this absolutely vital waterway. That gives it a totally dominant position. It's the gateway to the Persian Gulf, and what flows through it? Well, it pretty much keeps the lights on for a huge part of the world.
20%. Just let that number sink in. That's a full 1/5 of the entire world's daily oil supply. All of it sailing through this one tiny, narrow passage. The implication here is just staggering. Any disruption, any problem in this strait would trigger an immediate global economic crisis, no question. And it's not just about oil. Think about this. 90%, 90, of Qatar's absolutely crucial liquefied natural gas exports also go through here. So when you add it all up, something like 5% of the entire world economy depends on this one little strait staying open. That control, you can bet, acts as a really powerful deterrent against any kind of attack.
Okay, so we've got geography and we've got economic leverage. Our third clue, though, might be the most complex of all: the people. Iran's population is like a double-edged shield. It makes the country hard to govern, sure, but it makes it even harder to occupy.
See, Iran isn't just one monolithic people, it's this incredibly rich mosaic of different ethnicities. You have the Persians, who are the majority, of course, but you also have huge populations of Azeris, Kurds, Arabs, Baloch, Turkmen, and each group has its own unique language, its own culture, its own history, and they're often concentrated in their own specific regions of the country. And this diversity creates this really fascinating dynamic. Internally, yeah, it can create some serious challenges for the government, but for an outside invader, it's a complete nightmare. Because what history shows us time and time again is that when they're faced with a foreign threat, all these different groups have this powerful tendency to unite under one single banner: nationalism.
The Iran-Iraq War is the perfect example of this. Back in 1980, Saddam Hussein invaded. He was betting that Iran's ethnic groups would just fracture, and maybe even side with him. But the exact opposite happened. The nation rallied together, they unified, And after 8 brutal years and 1 million casualties, the war ended in a stalemate. Iraq failed to gain a single inch of Iranian land, a huge miscalculation on their part. All right, this brings us to our final clue, and it's a really simple one, just sheer size. Iran's most powerful weapon might not be its army or its missiles, it might just be its own vastness. We're talking over 1.6 million square kilometers. It's this immense strategic labyrinth. To give you some perspective, you could fit 2 countries the size of Pakistan inside its borders. This is not some small target you can just roll into and capture in a few weeks.
And this huge size gives Iran what military strategists call strategic depth. Basically, it means the country can trade space for time. An invading army gets weaker, more spread out, more vulnerable the deeper it pushes in. Meanwhile, the defender can fall back, regroup, and launch a counterattack.
So just try to imagine the journey for an invader. First, you somehow got to get through those mountains. Then, you've got to cross hundreds of kilometers of hostile desert. And all the while, your supply lines for fuel, for food, for ammo are just stretching longer and longer and longer. And your final target? The major cities like Tehran? They're located deep inside the country, hundreds and hundreds of kilometers from any border. By the time you get there, if you can even get there, your army would be exhausted and incredibly vulnerable.
So there you have it, our 4 clues: the geography, the choke point, the people, and the sheer size. Now, let's put it all together and finally solve the puzzle of this impossible fortress.
The secret really isn't any one of these things. It's the powerful combination of all 4 of them working together. You've got the natural fortress of its geography, you've got the economic leverage of the Strait of Hormuz, you have a complex population that when push comes to shove, unites against outsiders, and you've got that immense strategic depth from its territory. All of that, together, creates this multi-layered defense that has been nearly impossible to break for centuries.
There's a quote that really captures the heart of Iran's defense perfectly. The land itself is a silent guardian, which makes time its greatest weapon. For any invader, the clock is always, always ticking. The longer they stay, the more the land itself works against them.
Which, it leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If a direct conventional invasion is pretty much off the table, does that make conflict useless, or does it just change the nature of the fight? Does it force adversaries to find other ways, moving the battleground away from the mountains and deserts and into cyberspace, into proxy wars, into crippling economic pressure? That's a question worth pondering.